Sonya Massey was a vibrant young woman full of life and energy. Her smile could light up a room and her laughter was infectious. She had a way of making everyone around her feel special and loved. She was a loving daughter, a cherished friend, and a pillar of her community. Sonya was the kind of person who would go out of her way to help others, always putting the needs of her loved ones before her own. At 32, she had dreams, aspirations, a future waiting to unfold. She was passionate about her career and had big plans for her future. She dreamed of traveling the world, starting a family, and making a difference in her community. All that ended on July 6, 2024. A day that started like any other, filled with promise and potential, was tragically cut short. On that day, Sonya was shot and killed in her own home by a sheriff's deputy, Sean Grayson. She was unarmed, defenseless, and completely innocent. The circumstances surrounding her death were both shocking and heartbreaking. Her death, a chilling echo of countless others, ignited a firestorm of grief and outrage across the nation. People from all walks of life came together to mourn her loss and to demand justice. Sonya's story is a stark reminder of the vulnerability of Black lives in America, a tragic testament to the systemic racism that continues to plague our society. Her death highlighted the urgent need for change and the importance of standing up against injustice. Sonya's death is not an isolated incident. It is part of a larger pattern of violence and discrimination that has been perpetuated for far too long. Each name, each face represents a life cut short, a family torn apart, and a community left to pick up the pieces. It is a horrifying thread in a tapestry woven with the blood and tears of Black Americans. The pain and suffering experienced by these families are immeasurable, and the impact on their communities is profound. Her name joins a long and tragic list of Black women killed by law enforcement. Women like Breonna Taylor, Tatiana Jefferson, and so many others. Each of these women had their own dreams, their own stories, and their own futures that were unjustly taken from them. Their stories are a searing indictment of a system that too often views Black lives as disposable, a system in dire need of change. The call for justice is not just about holding individuals accountable, but about transforming the very structures that allow such tragedies to occur. This is the story of Sonya Massey, a story that demands to be heard, a story that must not be forgotten. Her life, her dreams, and her potential were stolen from her, and we owe it to her to ensure that her story is told, a story that must not be forgotten. It is a story that calls for reflection, for action, and for change. We must remember Sonya and all those who have suffered similar fates, and we must work tirelessly to prevent such tragedies from happening again. It is a story about injustice, about grief, about the urgent need for accountability and reform. It is a story that challenges us to confront the uncomfortable truths about our society and to take meaningful steps towards creating a more just and equitable world. It is a story that calls upon each and every one of us to rise up, to speak out, and to demand justice for Sonya and for all victims of police brutality. We must stand together, united in our pursuit of justice and committed to making a difference. Only then can we hope to create a world where every life is valued and every person is treated with the dignity and respect they deserve. The night began with a cry for help, a plea that echoed through the quiet streets, shattering the stillness of the night. It was a mother's desperate plea for assistance, a call made in the hope that someone, anyone, could bring calm to the chaos. Sonya's mother, Angela, dialed 911, her voice thick with worry and fear. She had been through this before, but each time felt like the first. Sonya was having a mental health crisis, a situation Angela had navigated before. She knew the signs, the triggers, and the delicate balance needed to de-escalate the situation. She knew her daughter needed help, needed someone to de-escalate the situation, to provide support and care. Angela had always been there for Sonya, but this time, she needed professional help. What she didn't expect was for the call to end in her daughter's death. The thought never crossed her mind that reaching out for help could lead to such a tragic outcome. Angela clearly stated Sonya was unarmed. She made it abundantly clear that her daughter posed no threat to anyone but herself. She emphasized the need for a peaceful resolution, pleading for understanding and compassion from the responders. She placed her trust in the system, in the belief that help would arrive and her daughter would be safe. Angela believed in the promise of protection and service, but that trust was shattered when Deputy Sean Grayson arrived at their doorstep. The arrival that was supposed to bring relief instead brought a wave of dread. Instead of the compassion and understanding Sonya needed, she was met with lethal force. The situation escalated in a matter of moments, leaving no room for dialogue or de-escalation. The 911 call stands as a chilling testament to the fear and desperation felt by Black families across America. It is a stark reminder of the dangers they face even when seeking help. It underscores the deep-seated mistrust of a system that has repeatedly failed to protect them. The call for justice is not just about one incident, but about a pattern of systemic failure. It is a haunting reminder of the human cost of police brutality, a cost that is far too high. The loss of Sonya is not just a personal tragedy, but a societal one, highlighting the urgent need for change. Adding to the tragedy is the body camera footage released from a separate encounter between Sonya and deputies just 16 hours before her death. This footage provides a stark contrast to the fatal encounter that would follow, highlighting the complexities and nuances of her interactions with law enforcement. In this footage, Sonya is seen calmly and respectfully interacting with the officers. Her demeanor is composed, and she engages with the deputies in a manner that is both cooperative and compliant. She is cooperative and compliant, clearly posing no threat. Her actions and behavior in this footage stand in stark contrast to the narrative often used to justify excessive use of force by law enforcement. The stark contrast between this interaction and the fatal encounter with Deputy Grayson raises serious questions about the use of force and the implicit biases that may have influenced Grayson's actions. It forces us to consider how different circumstances and perceptions can lead to vastly different outcomes. The footage serves as a painful reminder of Sonya's humanity, of the life that was so unjustly cut short. It is a poignant testament to the person she was, beyond the tragic headlines and statistics. It underscores the fact that Sonya was not a threat, but a woman in need of help. Her interactions with the deputies show a person seeking assistance, not someone who posed any danger. It challenges the narrative often used to justify police violence against Black individuals, a narrative that often relies on stereotypes and assumptions rather than facts. This footage dismantles those harmful stereotypes, showing a different reality. This glimpse into Sonya's life only amplifies the injustice of her death. It highlights the disparity between her actual behavior and the fatal response she received, making the tragedy even more profound. It demands a thorough and transparent investigation into the events that led to her killing. The public deserves to know the truth, and justice must be served for Sonya and her family. It compels us to confront the systemic issues that allow such tragedies to occur with impunity. We must address the root causes of police brutality and work towards meaningful reform to prevent future injustices. This footage is not just a glimpse into Sonya's life, but a call to action for all of us to strive for a more just and equitable society. Section 4. The Fatal Encounter, Deputy Sean Grayson. Details about what transpired between Sonya and Deputy Grayson remain shrouded in conflicting accounts. What is known is that Grayson arrived at the Massey home in response to Angela's 911 call. What followed was a brief and fatal encounter that ended with Sonya shot dead in her own home. Grayson claimed he felt threatened, that Sonya lunged at him with a knife. However, no knife was ever recovered from the scene. The lack of transparency surrounding the shooting, coupled with the absence of any corroborating evidence to support Grayson's claims, has fueled public distrust and fueled demands for an independent investigation. The circumstances surrounding Sonya's death raise serious concerns about the use of lethal force, particularly against individuals experiencing mental health crises. It begs the question, could this tragedy have been avoided if Sonya had been met with compassion and de-escalation techniques instead of deadly force? Section 5. A History of Violence, Grayson's Past. As details about Deputy Grayson's background emerged, a disturbing pattern began to surface. Grayson had a history of excessive force complaints, a pattern of behavior that raised red flags within the community long before Sonya's death. One particular incident involved Grayson's use of a taser on an unarmed Black teenager. Despite multiple complaints and internal investigations, Grayson remained on active duty, his record seemingly ignored. This failure to address Grayson's history of violence raises serious questions about the accountability of law enforcement and the systemic failures that allow such individuals to remain in positions of power. The fact that Grayson was allowed to remain on duty despite his troubling history is a damning indictment of a system that often prioritizes the protection of its own over the safety and well-being of the community it is sworn to serve. Sonya's death is not just a tragedy, it is a stark reminder of the deadly consequences of inaction and the urgent need for comprehensive police reform.